come in and I scoop that elbow, I can sit there and I can force the guy into this position. And I use this in no-gi grappling, I use it in gi grappling, I use it all the time. I use it all the time to set up things like gift wraps and stuff like that. So if I'm sitting here, and I move to a north-south here, and I get up under here, we're just gonna ignore the gun for right now. If I bring this up under here, I'll bring this across, and as I do, it forces that elbow, and now I can start grabbing a gift wrap. So even from a sport jiu-jitsu standpoint, this is fine, or even in a non-weapons-based environment, this is fine. This gives me a good place where I can start teeing off on this guy or doing whatever. Like he's relatively defenseless. So if he's grabbing that gun, what I want you to see is that from here, I need to be able to float, and I'm doing this specifically up on my feet and at arm's length, but literally I would just be grinding right over the top of his head. But from here, I'm always moving. If he goes and switches hands on me, switch hands. So from here, I'm moving around. I'm constantly moving to the back side of that gun, and I'm constantly moving over the top of his head, never over the top of the legs. Okay, so I'm always looking to get in here, boom, anchor this down, pick that elbow, make sure I catch that elbow in my armpit, and now from here, I can start to do what I need to do here. I want you to see also that just from a leverage standpoint, if I'm sitting here and he's reinforcing on this side and he's trying to turn towards me and drive this up underneath my chin, if I'm doing this, he's gonna have better leverage. Get your hand out to the end of the muzzle. In a sport mode, if you wanna wrist lock him, that's fine. You can just be on the back side of the hand. But in a weapons-based environment, I wanna be as far out just from a leverage standpoint as I can. So move your hand out to the end. I don't need to be here, me here, and him out here. He's gonna have a leverage advantage. So just get this here. Once you're here, I don't have to drive this hand down. All I have to do is when I'm here, I lift this elbow up. If I can hold this hand still, and then from here, lift this, I can strip just the same, okay? So whenever you're doing disarms, the goal is to be here and to force this down, or to hold here and to lift this up. Doesn't really matter. Your goal is to articulate the wrist. Look out. Your goal is to do this. I don't care whether you push here and pull here, or whether you pull here and hold here. Doesn't really matter. As long as you can make the gun do this, you're good. Okay? That's all we're doing. So I also want you to see that because all disarms, like all good functional disarms, are based on articulating that guy's wrist, when I'm grappling, I should be either here. Guess what? My wrist can't bend if it's up against my body, which is why when we go to retention, we're here, okay? Or if that thing is floating out and I'm in a weapons-based, or I'm in a grappling environment, instead of going to compression where I would mainly be if I had a little bit of standoff distance, instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here. And I'm getting my hand right up against this because my hand here is keeping my wrist from being broken. The purpose of this hand is not necessarily to force my wrist into a backwards articulation. The purpose of this hand is to make sure that this wrist stays straight. So if I'm sitting here and Bradley's moving around this side of me here, I want to keep my elbow down so that he can't pick it. And now from here, I'm going to plant this foot, and now I can drive that muzzle back up under his chin. And now he had better start moving out of the way, because if he stays there, he better move the north-south, plant that muzzle, pick that elbow, and now on the back side of the elbow, it doesn't matter how hard I drive back because he controls the wrist, okay? So I want you guys to see that. I want you also to think about it from a sport perspective, because we do train wrist locks because they're so important in a weapons-based environment. But if I don't want to get wrist locked, I use my other hand to support my wrist, or I take my wrist and I bring it up against my body. You can't wrist lock me if it's up against me flat. You can only wrist lock me when I got distance out here. So the same principles that we use from a weapons-based environment, even in a sport mode, I do the same thing. If I don't want you guys wrist locking me, I'll bring my hand in close to my body, and now I can't bend anymore. All right.